Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of our Velocity Sellers Podcast. I am your host, Velocity Pete, and today I am joined by Nathan Hirsch, a serial entrepreneur, as he has described it. Great title, Nathan. Nathan has founded a plethora of businesses. I just wanted an excuse to use the word plethora, and I'm excited to talk to him today about a few of them in particular. We're also joined by special guest, executive producer, and co-founder of Velocity Sellers, Jake Schwarzbaum. Jake is usually behind the camera. He's usually the one just overseeing everything and making sure that I look pretty on the camera, and also that we get a nice good set of guests in here. But Jake has decided to join us today because Jake really fits into the topic particularly of one of Nathan's companies, FreeUp, because that's originally how we've gotten a few of our best employees here at Velocity Sellers. So Jake, Nathan, thank you so much for joining me today and talking to me about serial entrepreneurship.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Jake and I go way back. Jake was an OG FreeUp client. You might have been one of the first 5 clients. So,
one of the first, yeah.
So we go way back. And Jake knew me back when I didn't really know what I want to do with FreeUp. I had been an Amazon seller for years. I had sold books, eventually baby products, had a nice little cash cow going, but had seen writing on the wall that my business model, dropshipping, wasn't going to be around for the next 10 years. And we had all these great virtual assistants, and we knew Amazon really well. And at the time, there weren't that many Amazon coaches or courses or anything like that. So we were like, hey, do we sell a course? Do we build a software? Do we give away VAs? Do we have a VA agency? Eventually, we decided to run a VA marketplace. But I remember we sold an Amazon course for, I don't even know, maybe we sold 10 of them or something. And Jake was one of them. And we kind of taught Jake everything we knew about Amazon. And he went out and built Velocity Sellers, and we pivoted and started FreeUp and put all our time and effort in growing the marketplace. And here we are today. So it's been kind of a fun ride to see Jake from the ground up, and he's kind of seen me from the ground up as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say you're largely the responsible for, getting us where we needed to be, especially in the beginning. Like you said, I think we found you on Upwork, and you had just started FreeUp. You're talking, the company existed at the time, but we were lucky to have the individual consulting from Nate Hirsch back in the day. It was also fairly evident from the very beginning that the important thing to you was the level of service and how you interacted with the client, which was us at the time, which really, brought us along to, your ventures ongoing. So I'm looking forward to talking more about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, and I'm excited to get into it too. I'm excited to hear the whole history of, or more so maybe have Jake's input on, again, a few of our star employees here. But I'm excited to really, Nathan, to talk to you more, or Nate, to talk to you more about kind of where you got your start and kind of how you came up with the idea. Like you mentioned, Jake kind of saw you from the ground up, but for our audience that is now curious about that, I'd love to hear more about your background and kind of where you got started and how you came up with the idea for FreeUp.
Yeah, so I don't have that much of a background. I mean, I never had a real job outside of some high school jobs and internships. And it was actually at one of my internships, Firestone, where they just preach customer service. They preach playing the long game, making things right, taking responsibility, making sure the customer always feels special. So out of the limited corporate experience I had, I really tried to take that into any business that I started. And when I got to college, I had worked all these different high school and college jobs. My parents always made me get a job if I wanted to buy something, whether it's a video game, a car. Like if I wanted it, I had to pay for it. So I felt like I had a sneak peek of what life was like after college, and I wanted no part of it. I didn't want to work for someone else. I didn't want to have a boss. So I kind of looked at college as 4 years to try and throw things against the wall and see if I could create a business. And if I didn't, I'd have to go out and get a real job because my parents weren't going to let me move back home. And if I did, then I'd do that and have a lot more fun. So I started hustling, buying and selling people's textbooks at the end of every semester. And one of the places that I sold it on was Amazon. So I created an Amazon seller account. This was 2008. No one knew what Amazon was. If I told someone I was an Amazon seller, they didn't know what that was. And I eventually got a cease and desist letter from my college because I had built this affiliate network of college kids, and there were lines out my door of people trying to sell me their textbooks, competing with the school bookstore, which they didn't like. So I didn't want to get kicked out of college and I had this Amazon account. So I started experimenting with what I could sell on Amazon. And I started using this website, Slick Deals, to drop ship. I didn't even know drop shipping wasn't even a word that existed until years later, but essentially finding all these different retailers and manufacturers and saying, hey, you don't know anything about e-commerce. I don't have any place to put inventory or money to buy inventory. What if I get you sales? You keep my credit card on file. You ship the product to where I tell you to, and I'll just mark the product up. Eventually, I negotiated better pricing, but that was my initial business. And this business took off. We sold $25 million over 6-7 years on Amazon, topped out at about 4 or 5 million a year. And like I said, while it made a good amount of money and I was making more money than any college kid should, Amazon started to become harder. There was more competition, more people were learning how to sell. And we kind of saw writing on the wall, throw in a few Amazon suspensions and unsuspensions, suspended again. And we kind of realized, hey, we're just going to be playing this game with Amazon, trying to adjust to their rules. And we had built this army of virtual assistants and freelancers in the Philippines, mostly because college kids were super unreliable and we constantly ran into issues hiring them. And we kind of thought, hey, what if we started offering these VAs and freelancers to other Amazon sellers? All of a sudden, becoming an Amazon seller was cool. Everyone was trying to do it. And they were running into the same hiring issues that we had 4 or 5 years ago. So we had a solution to that. And we were doing a lot of experimenting at the time, like selling a course. Did we want to become coaches? All this stuff. But when we saw the freelance marketplace quickly take off and people kind of maxed out our freelancers and we had to recruit more freelancers, we kind of said, hey, we're going to stop selling our time and put all our time and effort into FreeUp.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's exactly what I wanted to hear, was the story of where did this idea come from? How did you get to this point? So thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to kind of dive a little bit more deeper into maybe the inner workings, if you can share some secrets with us, maybe, and just again more about what makes it so important for entrepreneurs or other serial entrepreneurs like yourself, maybe to again, for lack of a better term, free up some of their time by using some of these freelancers.
Yeah, and I have a question. So like what was pretty evident from day one working with you was your high standards and the systems that you had developed in order to authenticate the quality of the freelancers and to see through that they perform well for the clients. And then, in the rare case that maybe something didn't work well, like to be able to replace them. How did you, develop those systems to be so refined, and like how have those systems helped you succeed in that business and all the other businesses?
Yeah. So you got to remember, when I hired my first employee, I was 20. I had no idea what I was doing. And my first employee was actually Connor, who became my business partner. And I just lucked out. I posted a job. I barely interviewed him. I hired him. He was great. And there I am as a 20-year-old thinking, man, hiring is easy. You post a job, someone great shows up, they make your life easier, you make more money. And then I just proceeded to make bad hire after bad hire after bad hire. And my first busy season, I remember Black Friday. I don't even think Cyber Monday existed back then. But I just got destroyed. I didn't have enough people. I was working 20 hours a day. I was barely sleeping. My grades were going down. I had no social life. And I remember getting to January and thinking, man, I can never let this happen again. I barely kept my Amazon seller account alive. And so I started hiring college kids and learned a lot about what not to do there. Hired my first VA from the Philippines. A buddy of mine introduced me there. And through the next year, 2 years, 3 years, we made a lot of bad hires. But every single bad hire, we went back to the drawing board. Hey, what new interview questions can we ask? How can we onboard them better? How can we set better expectations? Whenever someone quit, how can we reduce turnover? How can we build a better culture where people want to stay? So over a few years' time, which was a lot of wasted money, a lot of wasted time, a lot of hassle, and me being upset, I finally developed this process that would spit out A players and keep them around. And that's how we found Chicky Ann, one of the best VAs I've ever hired. Still works for FreeUp now. I'm sure Jake interacted with her more than once.
Yep.
But she ended up doing the recruitment for FreeUp. And so all the standards that we have now, and we even have a company now, Outsource School, where we teach people our hiring process. It's all that stuff we did in college over 2-3 years, where we just learned from every possible hiring mistake and tried to create a process that no one would get through unless they were a really good hire. And then when FreeUp kind of came around, we wanted to put our name and our backing behind every hire, saying, hey, if someone quits on you, we'll cover all replacement costs. If if you have a bad experience, we're going to give you credit or refund you or hire someone to do the project or whatever it is. And we just tried to have a great customer service outcome no matter what the situation. And I think that built a lot of trust with the first 20, 30, 40 clients, because they knew, hey, if something goes wrong, Nathan's going to have my back. And they started referring people to other clients. And the other kind of wiggle there is we didn't know anything about marketing. We had gotten all our clients from Amazon. There wasn't even Amazon PPC back then. So it was all very organic. When we started FreeUp, we had to learn digital marketing. It was a lot of fun. We got to have our own website, build our own brand, build partnerships. But a big part of that was relationships. We knew our reputation was everything, and that if we could give our first 40 clients a great experience, better than they had on Upwork, better than they had on Fiverr, that would kind of pave the way to people talking about FreeUp, sending referrals, and be a base for everything that we would build going forward.
Yeah, and I can relate to learning through mistakes. And there is like a kind of, I guess, a certain attitude, I guess, maybe when you start out in business, that, kind of have like a laissez-faire attitude and things will work out in a sense, in terms of how you were hiring and thinking that it would just work. But it really takes a sort of certain fastidiousness and a high standard and a attention to detail in order to really execute scaling a business. And first of all, using your team, because you had done all that research up front for us in terms of finding those people was really helpful. But then taking that team and building your own systems, it's just so important to have that high standard and to iterate on the processes that you developed in order to improve and learn from your mistakes. You can't just assume that you're going to throw resources together and it's going to make something successful.
Yeah, and it's all about systems. Like we have an organic marketing blueprint we use for all of our companies. We have billing and bookkeeping that we now offer as a service, but we also do it for all of our companies. We have a hiring system that we use for all our companies that we sell at Outsource School. We have a SEO system that now we offer through our SEO business. So every single part of the business has a system, has an SOP, is documented. If anything goes wrong, we put in how exactly to handle it. And that's what we kind of just how we build companies. And not to jump too far ahead, but it's also how you build a sellable company. Even if you don't want to sell it, it's by having really good systems and processes. And hopefully people don't quit on you, but if they do quit, you plug someone else into that same process and you trust the process more than anything else.
Yeah, no, I'm as a Philly sports fan, except for the Eagles, I'm all about trusting the process. So I can definitely get behind that, and kind of like you said, just figuring out like Jake said, and you both said it, tripping over your own mistakes is not the worst thing in the world. Learning from your mistakes is getting back up and continuing to move forward. So yeah, no, I love it. Like I said, I am excited to talk more about. Jake kind of already touched on it, but the processes of FreeUp. I'd love to get more into, for anyone that for some reason hasn't heard of it. Let's talk more about the process of, so I'm someone looking to, freelance some of this work. I'm someone that wants to, get rid of some of the processes or processes in my day-to-day, work life. What's the steps I need to take to go on FreeUp and find a good person?
Yeah, so the concept of FreeUp is, you can go on Upwork and go on Fiverr, post a job, get a lot of applicants, sort through them, interview them. But on FreeUp, you can create an account for free, put in a request, and we're going to match you with the top 1%. We get thousands of applicants every week. Only the top 1% of VAs and freelancers get on the platform. You can meet them. You can hire them quickly. You don't have to go through a long interview process because we've already vetted them. And we're going to back you up if anything goes wrong. If someone quits on you, we'll cover replacement costs. If you have a bad experience, we have 24/7 support that's going to make it right quickly. So you know that you can hire someone quickly, sometimes even same day. If you need a full-time customer service rep or a graphic designer that can get started right away, you can put in a request and get going rather than going through a 2-3 week interview process. And you know that we have your back. So, I mean, with that, we had to build out all the process. We had a recruitment team and a vetting process where we're getting all these applicants, and we had tests. We had to build out a writing test for writers, a design test to go through people's portfolio, customer service, whatever. We had platform expectations and terms of use that we would test people on. So people knew how to use the platform, how to respond to clients. You have to respond to all clients within a business day, stuff like that, so that everyone had a great experience in the platform. And then once I actually got through that, we created a project board that would have the projects and a process for them to apply for those projects. From the client side, we had to build a sign-up process that walked them through it and help them create requests that they could put into our team and build a team that would actually fulfill these requests and go through the project board. From a marketing side, we had to build out the whole organic marketing blueprint, SEO, podcasts, partnerships, and someone managing them and doing cross promotions, affiliate program that we built out that became really popular and pushing that and running that. From a billing side, you got to pay people on time or they're not going to stick around. You got to charge clients correctly and have a buffer in between in case there's any issues that a client needs to be reported before we just pay out the freelancers. So every single part of the business had a process that we would work on it. And we would hire really great people. Like the top 4 people, the first 4 people we hired in FreeUp, Jane, Layden, Cheeks, and Marius, they ran the company. They were A-player superstars that were good at building process, that documented everything. And Marius was in charge of building. Cheeks was in charge of recruitment. Jane and Layden in charge of fulfillment and client experience. So really trusting them and kind of supporting them so they could build the process and putting them in charge of the SOPs where every quarter they needed to update the SOPs. That really helped us. And when we went to sell the business years later, we had all these SOPs that have been updated every quarter for 4 years, ready to go. And that said, hey, this is how customer service works. This is how billing works. This is how marketing works. And someone could just take that and run with it.
Yeah, no, like I said, we have Jake has some experience using it. So I could also get his perspective on that too and kind of hiring. And I mentioned them twice now, but I'll give a shout out to Lisa and Stephanie, 2 of our star players on Velocity. That came from FreeUp, and I know, like I said, I picked their brains a little bit about the process of becoming, I guess the other side of the puzzle is becoming a freelancer on FreeUp, and signing up to do that, and kind of like you mentioned, going through that vetting process and becoming that 1%. Also, by the way, Stephanie and Chris Prawl also say hello, so they wanted to make sure that you remembered them. And Chris said what did he say? I think he said he was going to be angry if you did not.
Of course. Chris, Lisa, and Stephanie were also OGs of the FreeUp platform. And I'm forever grateful to them. I mean, I was nobody at the time. I'm still nobody, but at the time they didn't know, I didn't have any kind of track record, but they trusted me. And my message to them was like, hey, if you get on FreeUp and you take really good care of clients and you have great communication, I'm going to do everything possible to find you really great long-term clients. And in some of their cases, multiple clients. Like I know Chris at the time was building a portfolio of PPC clients, and hey man, like if you trust me, I'm going to trust you, and we're going to do a lot of business together. And they were all in, and there were other freelancers early on that disappeared or found other clients or didn't communicate, and we had to kick them off the platform. But those 3, I built a great relationship with and had a lot of trust with, and we all kind of grew together throughout those years.
Yeah. And Nathan, you are not a nobody. We don't have nobodies on this podcast. So if you're somebody, you're going to be on this episode or be on an episode. But also you've done a lot, and Stephanie and Chris both had very great things to say about you. So definitely there's a lot of mutual respect there from what I can tell. But yeah, Jake, I'd love to hear about how very, maybe briefly, but also the story of how you use it to find, Lisa and Steph.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. We had our needs that we, communicated to Nathan Hirsch. I think, he had his forms, but at the time, I think we just kind of Skyped him about what we needed. And he would bring us, candidates, and usually it was always surprising, after going through platforms like Upwork and Fiverr and Freelancer or whatever, all those platforms, like just having someone that was vetted, and it was just so evident that the quality and the standard that he had set was so high that it didn't take very long usually to find someone that fit our needs. And those 3 were definitely, some of them.
Yeah.
And I'll jump in for a second. That's a big kind of belief for me on the customer service side, because everyone wants something different. So some people, they wanted to fill out forms. Other people, they wanted to use Skype, although I can't believe we use Skype. Like obviously we use Slack now for everything. Some people, they wanted to like send an email and be like, this is it. And my team would white glove it and put it into the system. So we kind of open that up. And same thing with our affiliate program. We're like, hey, we're going to give you an affiliate link, or you can just introduce me to someone, or you can give them a coupon code that they can use, or they could just sign up and you can just tell me afterwards and we'll give you credit. So kind of giving people different ways to use your service and more that white glove experience, I'm a big believer in.
Well, that's very interesting because, we kind of sometimes, look through the options of how to go about that. Sometimes we want to stay to a very strict process because it's efficient. You have to train your team, and if you have a big team, you have to train them in all the different ways to communicate, for example. So, so we have some of our clients in our Slack, or if we're using sometimes task managers, sometimes we use email. But we have started to open up and be a lot more flexible with the way that we work with our clients. But how have you kind of dealt with like the kind of inconsistency and um, I guess the chaos that it could bring when you have to kind of manage, like you're talking about like having all these really strict processes, but this is kind of becomes kind of a free for all, right? In terms of how you deal with the client. So how do you deal with that, balancing those two things?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the processes to me, we don't really defect from. It's just we want to give clients a few different ways to do business with us. Bookkeeping is a good example. Like I have a monthly bookkeeping service, EcomBalance, that offers monthly bookkeeping to e-commerce sellers. We only do monthly bookkeeping. That's it. We have no other add-on services. If someone needs CFO work, they want us to do ARAP or move money around in their account, like we won't do any of that. We won't budge. We do one thing, monthly bookkeeping, charge you on the first, booked by the 15th. So we're not budging on that. But to get a bookkeeping quote, we think our system is pretty easy. You create an account in our software, answer some questions, give us access to your books. But if people want to email us the questions or give our team the questions over a call or whatever it is, like we can make exceptions to how you give us information and do business with us, but we're not going to make exceptions on the actual service that we provide.
A very well predefined boundaries on what you will and won't do,
Exactly.
and then you understand where you will be flexible, mostly in communication.
Yeah, and
Seems.
FreeUp is the same way. Like if people want commission only VAs, we're very clear. Like we don't offer that. Or if someone wants a VA that's just on call, like yeah, you're working 9 to 5, but I'm not going to pay you 9 to 5. I just need you available at 9 to 5. And when an email comes in, you need to like log in and check it. Like we were very strict. Like no, sorry, you would have to pay them 9 to 5. So we tried to set those boundaries on how the service works, but how you get us that information is a little bit flexible.
Okay. Yeah, and I wanted to also, it's a great transition into EcomBalance. I want to go into that definitely, and I want to hear about that because I know that's, like we've talked about before, very prevalent for our audience and very, I think, could be a great something that they should know about if they're struggling with that particular section of the business. So I'd love to get another background on kind of how you started this, like kind of where the idea came from, and more about the services that you guys offer.
Yeah, EcomBalance is a fun one because I'm not a bookkeeper. I'm not a CPA. So some people think I'm crazy for owning a bookkeeping business. But I mean, it all comes back to with my Amazon business, we were always behind on the books. I started off doing books myself, which was a disaster. It took up time and my CPA just had to redo it. Then I hired college kids to do my books and they didn't know what they were doing. Then I would just dump it on my CPA at the end of every year and just say, hey, I'm just going to ignore my books. But I had no idea how my business was doing until months into the new year. Then I hired a bookkeeper quarterly, which was way better. But by the time I got that data, it was too late to make any decisions because months had passed. And then finally, I hired her monthly and I understood my business. Now, when we started FreeUp, when we had the concept, we said, no, we're going to hire a bookkeeper from day one. Before we prove the concept, before we're making money, we're going to be on top of this from the beginning. And hiring Marius was one of the best decisions we ever made because not only did it help us make real decisions based on numbers every single month, which helped us scale and make money and all that, but when we went to sell the company 4 years later, we had 4 years of clean, immaculate books going back to day one. And that helped us pass due diligence. It built a lot of trust with the buyers because on those initial calls, when they asked us questions about the numbers, we knew our numbers inside and out. And so after we sold FreeUp, we had the idea to start a bookkeeping business to help other people, specifically e-commerce sellers, not make the same mistake that we did and just get a good bookkeeper in place that's monthly, every single month, that speaks entrepreneurship, that speaks e-commerce, that will get you books on time that you can make decisions on, and then also set you up for funding or investments or selling your company down the line, whatever you decide to do. So that's really how the whole business came about. And we hired this controller with 30 years of experience that was a seller herself to be the operator, the CFO or CEO of EcomBalance, and built a bookkeeping team around them. And I think the beauty of us not being bookkeepers is we can focus on all the stuff around the bookkeeping that most bookkeeping services are not good at. The systems, the processes, the customer service, the marketing. the being able to speak entrepreneur, not just speak bookkeeper. And I think our clients really appreciate that.
As someone in the same kind, a little bit in the same boat as you, that took accounting courses in college and said, "Thank God I'm in marketing." I can definitely see how this service would be very beneficial to a lot of people that, like you said, just don't have an idea of what it really takes for again, I keep using the terms, but to balance the books, really, to balance your e-commerce business and to make sure that it's profitable, to make sure that you're doing it correctly and that you're looking at it from a good angle. So it seems like a very interesting service, and I wanted to bring it up for all of our viewers out there to talk more about it, and maybe even get you some more leads here if they see it and say, "Oh, I need that." So might keep your inbox open there, Nate. You might get some podcast viewers flowing in there.
Yeah, I mean, we try to make it easy. You fill out a quick pricing form on our site and give us access to your current books, and we get you a quote. The quote's two parts: a fixed price for any kind of catch-up cleanup work, a fixed price for monthly going forward. We normally give you a month free. If you mention this podcast, we'll give you 2 months free. And once you sign up and add a payment method, we charge you for the upfront. We get you integrated, get view-only access to your banks, credit cards, marketplaces. You have a kickoff call with our controller. You meet your bookkeeper. We get going on the catch-up work, catch you up, and then you're on monthly going forward, where we charge you on the first, and you get books by the 15th each month. And if you want to see a sample of what you get from us each month, just go to ecombalance.com/report. And we also have a second bookkeeping brand we launched a year ago, Accounts Balance. If you're an e-commerce agency listening, or maybe you have real estate property or whatever it is, accountsbalance.com is the same service, slightly lower price point because e-commerce bookkeeping is more complicated, but the same monthly bookkeeping service.
So you mentioned like building a business to be sellable, but not necessarily to sell. And that resonates with me as well. It's not necessarily that selling is top of mind, but if someone's going to buy your business, things need to be in order, right? So can you talk a little bit more about what that means to you, and what is the most important thing to have a business that is sound and structurally ready, structurally ready to scale and potentially sell, but just as something that is in a good place from month to month.
Yeah, so good talking. I actually just released a ebook on this. If you go to outsourceschool.com/exit, it's a playbook of how we set up our businesses to be sellable, plus the bonuses of everything that we learned going through due diligence and selling the company ourselves. But high level, I mean, this is what buyers care about. They want clean books. They want recurring revenue and like low client turnover. They want diversification of clients. So it's not like you've got 10 clients, but one of your clients is doing 95% of your business. They want multiple marketing channels. So you don't get all your clients via Facebook ads. And if Facebook ads changes, you're screwed. You're getting clients from a bunch of different ways. And they want like a really good team that's going to stick around afterwards and that can run the business without you. And I think where a lot of people, for years, I heard that I would never be able to sell FreeUp because I was the face of FreeUp. And the truth was, I was the marketing face of FreeUp, but FreeUp very much ran without me. I could go on vacation. Not that I didn't work hard. I did. I was always hustling. But the operations of the business, the customer service, the billing, it's not like if I didn't show up on billing day, freelancers didn't get paid.
You work on your business,
Exactly.
Not in your business, so, right? The paradigm.
So someone else can always come in with a marketing team, a different marketing strategy, and replace you on the marketing side, but the business needs to run without you. So that was kind of how we set up our businesses to be sellable, documented process, really good team, clean books from the beginning, and diversified marketing channels. And that's kind of the key to building a business that can be sellable.
There you go.
Got it. And as a serial entrepreneur, like, have you kind of stuck to a certain type of business that has resonated with you? Is it like client service businesses? Like what as a serial entrepreneur, what attracts you to starting or like getting involved with businesses?
So Connor and I have a checklist of what we look for in a business before we start it. And we're constantly brainstorming different ideas. And I mean, we only start a company if we have an operator to run it. That's kind of our new thing where, like, I don't want to be in fulfillment from day one. We didn't start a bookkeeping business till we found Shelly, our controller. We didn't start an SEO business till we found Steven, our controller, or our CEO of Trio SEO. So that's one of them. But we want a business that has recurring revenue. We're not interested in doing like one-time dev projects or anything like that. We want something that's sticky, like bookkeeping or SEO, where clients stick around. We want something where we believe the company will be around for 5, 10, 15 years. Not that we can predict the future, but we try to avoid fads or things that are going to work for a short period of time. We want something where it's a big market. We don't want to create the next Uber. We want something like every business needs bookkeeping. Every business needs to hire. Every business needs SEO, something that just applies to a big market. And we want big players in the business. We want Upwork. We want Fiverr. We want Pilot. We want Bench, because that means there's a massive market to serve. And we can just take our small percentage of the market and turn it into a really good business. We also like businesses where the other people in the business aren't necessarily good at what we're good at. Most bookkeepers are not good at marketing. Most bookkeepers are not good at customer service. So we can come in and kind of put our spin on a business and be able to do it a little bit differently than they do. So that's just a few of the things, but that's kind of what we want in a business and part of our checklist.
I wanted to go also into businesses that maybe you have exited and kind of your success there. And like Jake mentioned, building a business to sell. I know you talked a little bit about this experience and this kind of purpose with the book EcomBalance. But I want to talk more about your experience with it in general, like your personal experience with how has it gone, building these businesses and exiting them and being the serial entrepreneur of moving from one project to the next and always having something on the plate kind of thing.
So I've sold one business, FreeUp. That's the only one. Honestly, so FreeUp, selling it was the most stressful 6 months of my life. It was due diligence, dealing with lawyers. Every day you're waking up, is this deal going to fall through? And meanwhile, you're focused on growing the business because you don't want the deal to fall through, and you've just been ignoring the business for 4 months. So once we actually signed on the dotted line, like, we couldn't be happier. We sold it to really good people. We spent a lot of time vetting them. I was actually just texting with Mark this morning. They've kind of become mentors to us, and we have a great relationship with them. We sold it to good people who honored their word. Like, FreeUp's still around. It's hitting the 10-year mark, which is kind of crazy. Most businesses don't last 10 years. Our internal team's still there. A lot of clients still use it. Now that we agree with every decision that they made, that's just business, but they went in it with high values, and they honored their word. They paid us every penny. Connor and I got life-changing money out of it, and it allowed us to have more fun with business, and instead of focus on one thing, focus on building a portfolio. And it also put us in a position where we don't really want to sell any of our companies. Like, sure, if someone comes to us with a great offer, of course, we're going to listen and go through that. But like, we have EcomBalance, we have Accounts Balance, we have Outsource School, we have True SEO, we have more coming on the horizon, and they all kind of support each other. Like, EcomBalance and Accounts Balance do the bookkeeping for the other businesses. So they all kind of support each other in that way. So we don't need to sell them. So for our experience was great. I know a lot of people that have sold it and they regretted it. That's not the case with us. Maybe there's another world where we didn't sell it and we grew FreeUp bigger, and that was the better decision, but you're kind of making the best decision possible with the information that you had. And you got to remember, we sold it November 2019. COVID hit a few months later. We didn't even know about COVID going through the deal. But we got to avoid like all that stress that people went through as a business owner, where they didn't know what was going to happen with their business and stuff. We were post-exit at that point. So it couldn't have worked out better from our end, but there's a lot of things to learn. Like, check out my exit playbook. You want to do diligence with the buyers. There's ways to make sure you're good with the earnout and the upfront portion, because you don't know if you're going to get that second part. Like, they could run the business into the ground. There's things you want to be aware of. Even staying on as an employee, we said, no, like, we're not going to be employees. If you want to buy the company, we're going to be out of there within 30, 60 days and be working on something else. And I know a lot of people who have made the mistake of sticking with that company and have really hated it. So I think we went about it the right way, and we made the right decisions in that regard.
I thought you had sold more. I guess maybe I confused the whole fact that you're just in, kind of like you said, balancing a lot of different businesses. I figured that you were a serial seller as well. But I know you also mentioned, and I know I got some background a little bit from Stephanie, but I'd love to hear from you directly too. It's not so much that you have a few businesses that sell on Amazon, right? It's not so much for you about having selling accounts. It's more about supporting those sellers, right? It's not, you don't actually sell a whole boatload of products, or you don't have a bunch of businesses that you sell a bunch of products. It's more of these, like you said, like supporting, you're the support role, which is a very essential role in a lot of different aspects. But
yeah, I mean, I was one of the OG Amazon sellers. I had to be one of the first 1,000 US Amazon sellers, maybe even less than that. I started in 2008, maybe a little bit before that. And I stopped selling in 2016. So we sold about 25 million from 2008 to 2015, 16, ish around there. But I haven't sold on Amazon since then. I've been building businesses that support Amazon sellers. Like you said, we have a few companies like Trio SEO that we do have some e-commerce clients, but our market is more like SaaS and bigger B2B companies. But yeah, I mean, e-commerce always has a special place in my heart. It's where I started. I just know a lot of people like Jake in the e-commerce community. So whenever I can start a business that helps them, that has a 5-star customer experience, and that's something I left out. Like, we're only interested in building a business if it has a 5-star customer experience and if clients are really happy with it. And if they're not, like, we'll refund everyone and move on to something else. We've kind of done that. Like when we launched Outsource School, if people hated our hiring course, we're just going to refund everyone and move on to the next thing. If our initial beta clients with EcomBalance didn't have a good experience, again, refund them, move on to the next thing. Like, we only want to build a business where clients are extremely happy.
The white glove, like you said, which is a good term. Yeah, no, follow up to that. Do you ever miss it? You ever miss selling on Amazon? You ever miss the thrill of setting up coupons for Prime Day and getting ready for Black Friday and doing all those FBA orders and all that jazz? I won't say the other term I was going to use, but
Actually, Prime Day wasn't even a thing back then.
No, yeah, Prime Day didn't exist.
Oh, I guess you're right. Yeah, 2016. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon, I had a lot of fun. You got to remember, I was 20. Like, it was a bunch of college kids that had no idea what they were doing, like drinking, smoking, just like just having a crazy time. Like, we'd sell on Amazon and then like go to a frat party at the end of the day. Like, it was an absolute blast, and we were on top of the world. And I mean, there are times that I don't miss, like the suspensions, or my family still jokes. Like, now I actually hang out with them like post Thanksgiving. It used to be like once I'd finish Thanksgiving dinner, I just wouldn't talk to anyone for 2 weeks, and I'd just be on my computer, just fixing issues and shipping products or whatever. So there's parts of it I miss and parts of it that I don't miss.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you. And you're right. Prime Day, some of this stuff was not around back then, but I can only imagine how much more your family would have been mad at you if there was like a fall Prime Day to worry about, and then a July Prime Day and all this kind of good stuff. So it's very interesting. Also, I don't know if you saw, but I had to make a comment about this because I didn't get a chance to yet. Walmart and Target now both had also sales events this week. I thought it was very funny because Walmart also had their I don't know, I don't remember what it was called, but they had it like the week before summer Prime Day. I thought that was very funny. They brought that back to kind of they're funny. They know what they're doing. They know very well what they're doing on that end. But I wanted to make a comment about that. I know it's not super duper relevant to our topic today, but I thought that was just interesting to mention. But in any case, Nathan, I want to ask you one more question. I want to get one more topic out of you because I'm enjoying our discussion so far. I want to know what's next. What's on the horizon for not just you, but just in general for maybe just for e-commerce. In 2025, in Q4, what are you looking at? What are you working on now? Of course, aside from the things we mentioned already, but really, again, what's on the horizon for you?
Yeah, so growing my personal brand. If anyone wants to follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, we hired a whole media team that's doing that for Connor and I. Adding businesses to our portfolio. We've got a few ideas in mind, and our non-compete is actually up with FreeUp in the next month. So we could potentially get back into the VA freelancer space. We're having preliminary discussions. I don't know exactly what we'll do yet, but it'd be a fun business to have in our portfolio. So stay tuned.
Yeah, I did see that on LinkedIn, that poll I think you posted. Yeah, that'd be exciting. I might have to interview you. You said it's up in the next couple of months here?
We're filming this October 8th. I think our non-compete is up like November 19th or something like that.
I'll have to get you back on for another episode follow-up kind of here to get sort of a part 2 for all of our viewers that are now in suspense of will he, won't he start a new FreeUp kind of company. So yeah, no, I'll definitely have to reach out to you then and we can talk more about that. But yeah, no, I'm excited to hear more from you. I'm excited that thank you again for coming on today to talk to me about these variety of different topics. And I guess also Jake was here. So thank you from both of us. Jake, any final questions for Nathan? Any final thoughts for him?
No, I'm just very impressed with the trajectory of your career, and I've followed you, and I'll continue to follow you what you do. So thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And just a reminder for all of our viewers out there, I will have Nate's LinkedIn profile and his plethora of business websites in the description below. So make sure to check them all out for all of your variety of different needs that you might have. And make sure also that if you mention this podcast to him for EcomBalance, you'll get your first 2 months for free. So very, very excited about that. That was a nice, fun little offer there. Nathan, once again, thank you so much for coming on today to talk to us. Everybody watching, if you like this episode and want to learn more about the e-commerce / Amazon / how you can propel your Amazon business or anything else related to those kind of topics, make sure to like and subscribe to stay tuned for all of our updates. And thank you for watching. I'm Velocity Pete, and we will see you next week.